Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Locke and Key Season 3, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, picking up where the last episode left off, the Lockes are running for their lives, and luckily, they end up running into Nina and Rufus. And obviously, seeing that blue light, of course, it would mean something to Nina, because obviously they've crossed paths with the Omega Door, back then, but not even just that. The fact is, she spent time in there, so, and obviously it comes back kind of haunting her a little bit, but she takes the Lockes away, and Bodhi, knowing that they're gone, wants to follow them, but Chamberlain tells him he can't. You're bound, as a ghost, you're bound to the grounds of Key House. And lo and behold, who pops up? Sam. I was like, I knew you were here. I'm just surprised. But he was probably keeping his distance while Bodhi was around. But now it's like, right, considering how bad things have gotten, I've got to step in and help. But obviously, Bodhi doesn't want any help from Sam. It's like, right, this is still the man who murdered your dad. This is also the guy that came in threatening all of you. And it's like, yeah, Dodge, manipulated him and everything. And even he admits, it's like, yeah, Dodge may have manipulated me and used me, but my choices are still my own. He can't take back what he did. And once again, even with the time shift key, they'd be able to get their dad back, but it would always be temporarily. They're like, oh, they could go see him temporarily. They could bring him to present day temporarily. It would never be like a permanent thing. It's something that sadly Sam can't take back. He was a kid that was going through so much. He has an abusive dad. He was lost, he was lonely, and Dodge took advantage of that loneliness, I mean, a lot of people made some bad choices, like Ellie, feeling that loneliness made a bad choice bringing Lucas back, so. And a lot of stuff set other stuff in motion, so. I mean, truth be told, is Bodhi kind of set this all in motion because he was sad, that those sad choices, people being in sad positions kind of led to them making some very desperate choices that have major ramifications. But Bodhi doesn't want to listen to Sam at all. It's like, I don't want you even in my sight. But Chamberlain is like, yeah, you should go. What he did cannot be forgiven, but Sam's been helping you guys out without you even realizing. And Bodhi's like, what? It's like, yeah, he helped you guys out quite a bit last season, and you were completely unaware. And I do think that is such an interesting thing that the audience and Dodge, to be fair, that version of Dodge, I think, yeah, because Dodge had already, because remember him and Gabe battling it out for the bat, that already kind of happened. So that Dodge, if Dodge was still here, that Dodge would know about that, but nevertheless, Dodge and the audience are the only one and Chamberlain are the only ones aware of Sam, still being out there as a ghost and everything. But at the same time, this is all happening. They're all trying to figure out, well, what are they going to do next? How do they get Bodhi back? And Rufus is suggesting, well, why don't we use the time shift key? But it's like, no, it's too unpredictable. That, to my thought, that was like, that's the only. I was like, I felt like that was the only option for them. And then they were saying like, well, we need to put Bodhi, we could get the ghost key back, he get in the body. I thought like, well, there is a body available, it's Dodge's. But to be fair, I had my presumptions about how that whole thing worked with Dodge leaving in Bodhi's body. But I guess that must mean, they never had chance to check it out, so maybe they're assuming. But I guess Dodge's body, once Bodhi went back, basically, I guess the time shift key erased his body, because I was like, it undid everything, so Dodge probably did go back to where she was and no memory of any of this, so she doesn't know what's coming her way. Good thing, good thing, because if she knew, it would make taking her down a lot harder. So good thing she ended up forgetting everything once again to kind of prevent any major time shifts and paradoxes. But I'm assuming she kind of got reset to the moment her and Bodhi's body, they both disappeared. I think Bodhi's body kind of disappeared to the nothingness of just fate, was destroyed from existence. And then time was kind of reset to the way it was, where they were battling Gabe, and almost none of that happened. not her leaving, not Bodhi time traveling to that moment. Like, once again, all of it, none of it happened. I mean, that's the only way I can explain why Dodge's body wasn't an option for them. Because I was about to say, like, oh, this actually works out. I was thinking that last episode, but I was like, I kind of even said, like, oh, it would be interesting if Bodhi ended up in Dodge's body, because it'd be like that interesting inverse of Ellie walking around as Dodge last season. But either way. But I guess that was just kind of the way to kind of handle that. Be like, no, Dodge's body disappeared too. Just like everything related to that. Both Dodge's body and Dodge themselves, the demon, both disappeared once again along with Bodhi's body. But because I was thinking, if Bodhi could be in a body, why not Dodge's, where it's like, hey, for one, this is an older body, and it also gives you the benefit of being not only, well, you won't be a demon. It makes you wonder, like, if you're not in the body of a demon, because the body is that of an echo, the demon inside of the body, but it's like, well, the echo is a demon because it was brought back. So if Bodhi were to get inside of Dodge's body, which is the Echo body, so it wouldn't be able to die easily, but two, would Bodhi have like demon strength? Because the demon itself is what gives the body its supernatural strength. So assuming so, Bodhi would just be like immortal, like an Echo, but not have the superhuman strength of a demon. So I kind of rationalize that out in my head. But either way, at the same time, Nina's trying to avoid Josh with everything that's going on. Especially, like, every time she's talking about Bodhi and everything, it's breaking her heart. Because it's, like, not knowing, like, how they fix this. Her baby's going, like, what does she do? And Josh is just seeing it as, like, oh, I guess she's kind of blowing me off. But it's like, yeah, she doesn't really have time to worry about that when, like, her baby's missing. Literally, a demon is trying to bring about the end of the world. So there's just so much going on there. Other than that, we found out from Gideon that he doesn't have all the keys, which I don't think they always kept it an ambiguous amount of keys of like how many are actually out there. And even Nina's like, yeah, I don't think there's any more out there, but I kind of had this look like she knew. I was about to say like, well, I was like, would it be the crown key? But it's like, well, to be fair, it's like, it's probably amongst those keys, but, so it wouldn't benefit them to have the crown because they can't really use the key anyway. Or they can't use it without the key anyway, but it did seem like she was hiding something, so like she did know where one key is. We ultimately find out she did, but we'll get to that in a second. But either way, Gideon can feel that there's still not all the keys. So it seems like in existence there is only one more key out there. So now it is a situation of he needs to find it because the portal, he can never like fully utilize this if he doesn't have all the keys to draw out the full strength of everything. I guess it kind of makes sense to some extent. Well, because I guess like you would need all the power of every living demon here. And I guess the demons in the form of these keys like personifies the demonic power. So it kind of adds to your own. So you have to use... Because I guess you could almost say, like, the demons were refined into, like, their purest form and their most potent power form in the form of these keys. So you need every single one of them to kind of crack through the door. And, you know, and obviously they're not in the process to make any more. It's not possible to make any more right now, so... So Bolton gets set to go after Josh, which he shoots Josh. He's like, man, damn it, everyone's catching a bullet here and there. It's like, well, I guess Bodhi doesn't have to worry about returning to a body with a gunshot wound in it. So there's that. But Jamie gets kidnapped in the process. And everyone came up with, well, they heard from Josh about Bolton's on his way. So they're concocting their plan of like, right, if we can trick them into taking us to the key house, push him through the ghost door, Bodhi could take his body. We'll kind of figure everything else after that. Bodhi at the same time learns from Sam about everything. Because obviously it sucks that for him it's like, right, he wishes he could die because he's stuck like that for all eternity. And so it is a situation of he does wish he can die because he has to live with all his regrets about what he did. So he does teach Bodhi about how he helped Kinsey find the angel key last time using the birds. So now with that skill, which is interesting because one of the earlier in the season, we saw, what was that episode? At the end of episode 1, Gideon like killed a nearby bird, and I thought like, oh, it's interesting considering like they turn into animals. I'm like, maybe that's going to foreshadow something. Kind of does, because I think the episode title was called Free Bird or something like that. So it all, I don't know if you would necessarily call that foreshadowing. It's just kind of interesting. I mean, birds would kind of end up being Gideon's undoing in this episode. So I did love Jamie getting filled in about like, yo, what happened? And Ellie was like, oh, it's pretty hard to explain. As I dodges back and she's inside of Bodhi's body and he's a ghost right now. And Jamie's like, oh shit. I mean, she's like, I'm sorry, but that's crazy. It's like, oh wow, that's wild. And obviously knowing about the keys and everything, it's like, oh man, that's wild. But she's like super quick to believe understand all that. Josh shows up, passes out from a gunshot wound, just had to strengthen himself to get back to his daughter in a hospital. Nina dances around it. She's just like, right, that door you were looking for last season, yeah, it does exist, but it's not to our loved ones. There's a whole bunch of stuff from that other side. Gideon's from there. It's like, oh, Gideon, like my ancestor? I was like, right. I forgot about that aspect of, yeah, he is your ancestor. You ran into him, and I don't think he realized who you were. You definitely didn't realize who he was. Because no way, he probably doesn't have his, I mean, there's no like real photos, there's probably just like drawings of his ancestors, so he probably doesn't know what he actually looks like anyway, and even if he did, you probably wouldn't think like, oh, this guy just happens a little like, you probably wouldn't think too much of it. The point is, Nina tells him the gist of things without really getting into the ins and outs of it. And she's like, yeah, go ahead and call me crazy. He's like, I believe you. I don't understand everything that's going on, but it's like, I think you're fine. As long as you didn't bring up the M word, magic, then we're good. He was already believing like, hey, there's a door to the other side. You explain like, oh, there's some other stuff going on here. I feel like the easiest thing would have been like, yo, he wants something that's been passed down in our family that's super valuable and he's just trying to steal it. But it's like, right, you don't want to lie to this person, especially as close as your families have gotten, as close as the Joss that you've gotten to, in the process of kind of moving on, I guess, because to be fair, Nina did make a point of like, when he said like, right, tell me these type of things, and she's like, made a point when he asked her like, oh, you didn't tell me about the robbery. He's like, I thought we would be to the point that you tell me stuff like that, and she promised to. So I think that's her kind of keeping that promise. So that's probably why she didn't even like try and attempt a lie or something. So either way, back to Kinsey and Tyler getting brought to Key House, and I thought it was interesting where Gideon was like, oh, where's my kin? And Kinsey being like, no, those keys aren't yours, they're ours. And it's like, he's like, because he called them thieves, and he's like, yours? These keys are made from my kin. They don't belong to you, Locke. It's like, to be fair, it's like, yeah, every single one of those keys are made from demons. So it's like, yeah, he's like, oh, but it's almost like, yeah, but I guess in his mind, he justified like, well, these are my people. These are my kin. So I can use them as I need to. Like, the fact is that you Locks are using them is the real blasphemous thing. So looking for the final key, they use the ghost key lie, but Bodhi has a different plan in mind. He shows up as a bird. I'm like, what is he going to do? And then the moment Kinsey was like, oh, we need an animal key, I'm like, what are you going to do with that? At first I'm like, are you going to turn Gideon into an animal? But because I guess for whatever reason, like, we saw how the animal key worked in the first episode, so that's actually interesting. Like, not only is the whole thing about the animal key, and it all kind of comes full circle in this episode in that regard when I actually think about it. Because in my head, I'm treating the animal key like the identity key. You could just use it yourself and turn it into an animal. It's like, it doesn't work like that. You have to go through that little hatch to become an animal. And so it didn't even cross my mind to think that that's how that's going to get utilized. And obviously Gideon immediately recognizes Ellie, because it's like, hey, or she recognizes the fact is like, right, you spent some time on the other side, because he can sense it on her. So they confront Gideon, manage to get the animal key, and Bodhi flew in as a bird and came out a human. I was like, oh, I did not expect that to be the solution to that. I thought up and down that it was going to be the time shift key, but it's like, that's one way of handling it. I mean, to be fair, I mean, once again, just with the natural order of how like the keys work and how even though you're a spirit, you're still that spirit in some level. So even though it's not Bodhi's body, it just, it is his essence and his spirit. So it turned that bird body into a human copy of his body to some extent. So, I mean, it's kind of weird, but I mean, it works. I just wasn't expecting that to be the solution to it. Never would have crossed my mind that that's what that... I mean, maybe someone saw that coming. I sure as hell didn't. But all that's kind of short-lived when Gideon's about to toss Ellie into the portal and asking for the final key, especially when Rufus shows up to try and help her. But it's like, right, tell me where the key is or I kill your son. Turns out there is one more key. Ellie did know where it is. Apparently, it's in Gordy's head. Which I'm like, I thought that was so interesting because we're kind of sprinkling Gordy in here and there. I'm like, okay, we just keep introducing him and his interactions with Ellie. It's like, oh, it's like, because she did apologize earlier in episode 2 at Duncan's wedding. Like, right, sorry, like, we had our own clique. Sorry it involved you. It's like, oh, I mean, it makes sense. Like, they're the ones who discovered the keys and everything, so they probably kept that loops, circle small. But it is interesting that Ellie would hide a key in his head, and even Kenzie's like, "What do you think it does?" It's like, "What is this last key do?" Must be pretty bad news if Ellie's going to hide it in a safe place. She didn't hide it in one of their heads. She hid it in someone else's because I guess if they couldn't be trusted with it, so she'd rather trust it to someone outside of all of this. I wonder, did she do it with the others, like Aaron, Rendell, and the other dude? Like, did they all know that she had the key there, or was that her own secret? Because they all picked the spots where the keys ended up being hidden, so it probably was like a key only she knew where it was hidden. That way, no one knew where all the keys were, type of thing. Either way, he heads off with Ellie to get the final key. And the moment Bolton came back, I was like, that's not Bolton, is it? I was like, but I figured I was like, why are you playing alone? Why don't you? But it's like, right, you don't want to take the chance someone could get hurt. You want to use this opportunity of surprise to your benefit. So, but it turns out Bolton's like, oh, hey, I'm not Bolton, it's me. And I was like, he was like, Sam, and everyone's looking like, Bodhi kind of had time to process this. It's still a lot to handle for Tyler, Kenzie, and Nina. Like, this is still kind of like once again, just like Bodhi, their last experience with him is when he, not only killing Rendell, but when he kidnapped them and held them hostage in season 1 and threatened to kill everybody. So that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for the others. I mean, Bodhi's going to defend him and like, hey, he helped us. He's actually the one that led you to the angel key, Kenzie. He's the one that helped me, so we'll work together. And I'm sure what's going to end up happening is, because he's in the body of an Echo, Sam is probably going to kill himself. He's probably going to go like, hey, I'm going to go through the well gate and kill myself, because this way I can actually die. He wants to move on. It's like, right, it's not fair for me to be here anymore. I'm a ghost anyway. I can't go back to his family anyway. Because he has a little sister, but it's like, I can't go back to them anyway. So, I mean, his family turned upside down with everything he did, getting locked up anyway. So, I'm sure, in the grand scheme of things, that didn't help. So, definitely going to be interesting to see where all this takes us. I'm super excited to find out what this final key is and what it does. So, we'll have to wait and see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.